So now we're on lesson 15, solving the inequalities. And so it says, here's an inequality, negative x is greater than or equal to negative 4. So then you need to predict what you think the solutions are for that number line. And so you need to select all the values that are solutions to that inequality, but first we need to solve it. So I have negative x is greater than or equal to negative 4. I have to divide by this negative, so negative 1. And so when I divide by a negative, this greater than or equal to is going to turn into the opposite, which is less than or equal to. And negative 4 divided by negative 1 is a positive 4. So your solution should be any number that is less than or equal to 4. So my solution could be 3, negative 3, 4, negative 4. This is greater than, so that can't be a solution. But this is a negative, so yes, it can. So when I graph it, I like to try to get my zero in the middle as best as I can. So I kind of choose my median method. So boom, 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 boom. Something like right here, give or take. And so on my left side is negative 1 for the negatives. And my right side is the positives. And so my inequality to graph, I'm looking at my solution. So x is less than or equal to 4. So 4 is where I would put my dot. And so if it's something like this, that means it's a closed circle or closed dot. If you have something like just a regular greater than or less than sign, it's an open circle. Okay? So at my 4, I put a closed circle and I shade all the numbers that are less than 4. And that's what your graph would look like. So now I need to fill out this table on 15.2 with this inequality. So it says x minus 3 is greater than negative 2. So if I were to plug in this negative 3 in place of x, that's like saying negative 3 minus 3, which is negative 6. And so I have negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And 3 minus 3 is 0. And so for which values of x is it true that x minus 3 equals to negative 2? So I'm just going to solve that, or I could use my table to help me out. So x minus 3 equals negative 2. I add my 3. A positive 3 plus a negative 2 is a positive 1. So the 3 subtracts the 2 and keeps the sign of the 3. And so that's what x equals. Okay? And then so for values, which values of x is it true? At 1 would make it true. And so same thing for this, but you're doing a greater than. So if I solve it, I end up getting x is greater than, because my sign is greater than 1. And so my solutions for x minus 3 greater than negative 2, so right around, it really don't matter. So I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. X is greater than 1. So at 1, my dot goes there. And since it's just a greater than, it's an open circle. And it's shading all the numbers greater than 1. And so for number 2, this is actually supposed to say 2x So we'll kind of fix it together in our workbooks. And so when you solve this, you have 2x is less than 6. You divide by 2, so you end up getting x is less than 6. I'm sorry, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So x is less than 3. So negative 3 times a positive 2 is a negative 6. Negative 4 times a positive 2 is actually a negative 8. Negative 2 times a positive 2 is a negative 4. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 times 2 is 8. So your table should look like that. And so to graph it, again, we already figured out that x is less than 3. So whenever I graph it, I'm just going to write the numbers that I really need. So x is less than 3. So I put my dot at 3, and it's an open circle because there's no or equal to. And I shade all of those numbers that are less than 3.